AITA for staying silent while my wife exposed her own betrayal? My name is Nolan. I'm 34 years old, and I live in Cary, North Carolina. In one of those quiet suburbs outside Raleigh where the lawns are trimmed, the mailboxes all match, and half the neighborhood pretends not to care about the HOA emails while secretly reading every line. I work as an operations manager for a regional logistics company. That sounds more impressive than it feels most days. Mostly, I spend my time making sure warehouse schedules, vendor calls, delayed trucks, and angry clients do not all become expensive problems at the same time. My job trained me to notice patterns, save receipts, keep timelines, and never panic just because something looks messy. For 8 years, I was married to Maren. Maren was 33, sharp, and pretty in a way that made strangers smile back at her. She worked in marketing for a boutique home design company in Raleigh. She had the kind of taste I never pretended to understand. She could look at a blank wall and know exactly which print, shelf, and lamp would make it feel intentional. I was more the guy who measured twice, mounted it once, and asked if we still had the Allen wrench. We had a 3-bedroom house on a cul-de-sac, a small fenced backyard, a shared mortgage, a golden retriever named Biscuit, and routines so ordinary they almost made me feel safe. Trash went out on Wednesday nights, and Costco was usually on Saturday mornings. Biscuit's dog food came by subscription. Sunday evenings meant laundry, leftovers, and Maren scrolling through Instagram while I half-watched whatever game was on. From the outside, we looked fine. Not perfect, not movie perfect, but fine. That was why, when Maren first started acting like I was the problem in our marriage, I almost believed her. Looking back, I can admit our marriage had become stale before it became dangerous. Not dangerous in a dramatic way. Dangerous in the quiet way resentment becomes a third person living in your house. I worked long hours. Sometimes I got home after 7, still answering emails from the driveway because a truck got delayed near Greensboro or a warehouse supervisor forgot to update inventory. Maren hated that. She never said it as, "I hate that you work so much." She said things like, "It must be nice to have people need you all day," or "Some men make their wives feel chosen even when they're busy." I thought those were requests for attention, so I tried. I booked a weekend in Asheville because she once said she missed mountain air. She complained that I chose a practical hotel instead of something with character. I made dinner reservations at a nice place in Raleigh. She spent half the meal showing me photos from a friend's anniversary trip to Tulum. "Look at this," she said, turning her phone toward me. "They're always doing something." I looked at the photo. Her friend was standing in a white dress on a beach beside a man holding champagne. "Looks expensive," I said, which was the wrong answer. Maren's face tightened. "That's not the point, Nolan." "What's the point?" She set the phone down. "The point is effort." I wanted to say effort also looked like paying bills on time, fixing the garbage disposal at 10 at night, scheduling the HVAC service before July, and making sure her tires got replaced before they became unsafe. But I did not say that. I just nodded and said, "I hear you." That became one of my mistakes. I heard her, but I did not always understand her. And she started taking my calmness as proof that I did not care. Then Sloan became a constant presence. Sloan was Maren's best friend from college, newly divorced and proud of it in the way some people are proud of surviving something, but not yet healed from it. She wore expensive sunglasses indoors, drank wine like she was making a point, and talked about marriage like it was a business deal where only fools forgot to protect themselves. At first, I felt sorry for her. Her divorce had been bitter. She had moved into a rental townhouse near Apex and came over often, usually with a bottle of white wine and a story about how free she felt now. One Friday night, while I was cleaning the grill after dinner, I heard her laughing with Maren on the patio. "Stability," Sloan said, dragging the word out. "That's just a prettier word for being trapped with good credit." Maren laughed. Not a polite laugh. A real one. I looked through the kitchen window and saw them sitting beneath the string lights I had hung the year before. Maren had her legs tucked under her, wine glass in hand, head tilted toward Sloan like a student listening to a favorite teacher. I stepped outside and said, "Should I take offense to that?" Sloan smiled at me over the rim of her glass. "Only if it fits." Maren touched my arm. "She's joking." But she didn't look embarrassed. She looked entertained. After that, little comments became normal. If I reminded Maren that we had a mortgage payment coming out, Sloan would say, "Careful, Nolan, You're sounding like a father, not a husband. If I asked what time Marin thought she'd be home from brunch, Marin would say, "Why? Do I need to check in now?" If I looked confused, they both acted like I had walked into a joke too late. The first night that truly made me uneasy happened on a Thursday in October. Marin told me she had a client dinner at a restaurant in downtown Raleigh. She said it was with 2 women from a staging company and that she would probably be home around 9. I made chicken tacos, ate mine standing at the kitchen island, saved a plate for her, and took Biscuit for a walk around the neighborhood. At 9:15, I texted her, "Everything okay?" No reply. At 10:03, she wrote back, "Still talking. Don't wait up." That was unlike her. Marin might get distracted, but she usually sent a photo of her drink or complained about someone talking too much. I sat on the couch with Biscuit's head on my leg, trying not to stare at the time. She came home at 11:38. I remember the exact time because the microwave clock was the only light in the kitchen when she walked in. Her jacket carried a faint smell of cologne I did not recognize. Not strong. Not enough to accuse anyone of anything. Just enough that my stomach noticed before my brain wanted to. "Long dinner," I said. She dropped her purse onto a chair and slipped off her heels. "Yeah, you know how clients are. How was the place?" She paused half a second. "Fine. What did you get?" Marin looked at me like I had asked for her banking password. "Why?" "I saved you tacos. I just wondered if you ate." "I ate, Nolan." That was it. She took her phone from her purse, turned it face down on the counter, then picked it back up and carried it upstairs. The next morning, I borrowed her car because mine was blocked in by the landscapers doing work next door. I was not looking for anything. I was trying to get to work before I had to join a vendor call from I-40. When I moved a stack of mail off the passenger seat, a receipt slipped onto the floor mat. It was from a restaurant in North Hills. Not the restaurant she had named. 2 entrees. 2 cocktails. Paid at 10:51 p.m. I sat there with the car door open, holding the receipt while a leaf blower screamed 2 houses away. My first emotion was not anger. It was embarrassment. That hot, private feeling of realizing the person closest to you may have been lying while you were at home, saving them tacos. That evening, I waited until after dinner. We ate the kind of meal that already felt tense before anyone spoke. Reheated pasta, bagged salad, water glasses sweating on the table. Biscuit sat between us, hopeful and unaware. I placed the receipt on the kitchen island. "Can I ask about this?" Marin looked at it, then at me. Her face changed so fast it startled me. Not guilt. Anger. "Where did you get that?" "It fell out in your car this morning." "So now you're going through my car?" "No. I moved the mail. It was on the floor." She laughed once, sharp and cold. "That's convenient." "Marin, I'm not trying to start a fight. You said you were at a different restaurant. I told you I had a client dinner. You named a place. Because plans changed." "Okay. Who were you with?" Her eyes narrowed. "Listen to yourself." I leaned back slightly. "I'm asking a normal question." "No, you're interrogating me because you don't trust me." I looked down at the receipt. 2 entrees and 2 cocktails is not a group client dinner. She raised her voice then, but only after I stayed quiet. That was something I noticed later. She seemed to need the argument to become bigger than my question. "This is exactly what Sloan said you would do," she snapped. "What does Sloan have to do with this?" "She said you'd start acting like this when I finally had a life outside this house." I remember feeling like the floor had shifted under me. 5 minutes earlier, I thought we were discussing a receipt. Suddenly, I was defending whether I was the kind of husband who allowed his wife to have a life. "I'm not saying you can't go out," I said. "But you are. You're just dressing it up." I did not know what to say to that, so I said nothing. The next morning, Elaine called me. Elaine was Marin's mother. She lived in Wilmington with Marin's stepfather, and until then, she and I had always been friendly. She sent Biscuit Christmas toys. She called me Han, even when she was annoyed. That day, her voice was careful. "Nolan," she said, "is everything all right between you and Marin?" I stood in our pantry, holding a box of cereal I had not actually meant to pick up. "I thought so." "What?" She just sounded upset. "About what?" Elaine hesitated. She said you've been questioning her a lot. I closed my eyes. "I asked her about a receipt," I said. I'm not trying to get in the middle. But she was already there. Marin had placed her there. Over the next few weeks, I began to feel people treating me differently. At a neighborhood wine night, one of Marin's friends asked me too brightly, "So, Nolan keeping busy? Before I could answer, Marin said, "Oh, he keeps very busy, especially keeping track of me." People laughed awkwardly. I looked at her. That's not fair. She smiled without warmth. Relax. It was a joke. Sloane, standing beside her with a glass of wine, said, "Jokes only sting when they're close to something." That night, Marin posted an Instagram story with white text over a beige background. Sometimes emotional safety means choosing yourself. I stared at it in bed while she slept turned away from me, her phone tucked under her pillow. That was new too. The phone under the pillow. The screen angled away. The sudden passcode change. The way she would leave the room to answer calls, but claim it was just work. Then Derek's name appeared. It was 12:17 a.m. I remember because Biscuit woke me up wanting to go outside. I walked past the kitchen and saw Marin's phone light up on the counter. "Derek, you handled that perfectly. Keep it vague. Let him fill in the blanks." I froze. I did not touch the phone. I did not pick it up. I did not scroll. I just stood there in the blue-white glow of that message while Biscuit nudged my leg, impatient to get to the backyard. The next morning, I asked, "Who's Derek?" Marin did not look up from her coffee. "Former co-worker. He texts late." That made her look up. "Were you looking at my phone?" It lit up on the counter. "So yes." "No." I saw one message. She pushed her chair back. "Derek gives me career advice. He used to work with a lot of women transitioning into better roles." At midnight. She gave me a sad little smile that felt rehearsed. "This is what I mean, Nolan. I should be able to have a conversation without you making it ugly." Ugly. That word stayed with me all day. At work, I stared at warehouse numbers while my mind kept replaying the message. "Keep it vague. Let him fill in the blanks." That did not sound like career advice. That sounded like strategy. Still, I did not confront her again. Not because I was noble, because I was scared of what I might hear. I still loved her then, or at least I loved the version of her I thought was buried under all this. Some part of me believed if I stayed patient, she would eventually admit she had been unhappy, maybe even admit there was someone else, and we could decide like adults what came next. Instead, she got worse. She started changing our shared calendar. A client lunch appeared, then vanished. A design consult popped up on Saturday afternoon, but when I asked if she needed the car washed before she went, she said, "What consult?" At brunch with two couples we knew, she said, "I've started turning off my location sometimes. I forgot what it felt like to breathe." I almost choked on my coffee. "We don't share locations," I said. She looked at me with wide, wounded eyes. "Not anymore." The table went quiet. One of the husbands looked down at his plate. His wife suddenly became very interested in stirring her mimosa. On the drive home, I said, "Why would you say that?" "Say what?" "We never shared locations." She looked out the window. "That's not how it feels." "Marin, that is not the same thing. You always do that." "Do what?" "Demand exact wording so you can avoid the point." I gripped the steering wheel and watched the road. A younger version of me would have kept arguing. That day I stopped. When we got home, I opened my laptop. I created a folder called Home Timeline. I hated myself a little for doing it. The first file was simple. Date. Time. What happened? Who was present? Any record attached. I saved the restaurant receipt as a photo. I wrote down the brunch comment. I saved screenshots of public posts she made about emotional safety and feeling watched. I exported Ring camera clips when they were relevant. I kept copies of texts where I asked reasonable questions, and she responded by accusing me of controlling her. My job had taught me that memory is weak under pressure. Documentation is not. I did not spy. I did not follow her. I did not try to break into anything. I only kept what came through shared accounts, public posts, household records, and messages sent to me. The midnight ring alert came 2 weeks later. I was in Charlotte overnight for work, staying in a hotel near the airport because we had an early vendor meeting. I had just brushed my teeth when my phone buzzed. Motion detected at front door. I opened the Ring app. Marin stepped out of our house wearing a hoodie, leggings, and sneakers. She locked the door quietly behind her. A dark SUV rolled up with its headlights off until it reached the curb. I recognized the shape as Sloane's. The timestamp read 12:43 a.m. Marin had texted me 30 minutes earlier. "Going to bed. Long day. Please don't start anything tonight." I sat on the edge of the hotel bed with the little folded card about breakfast hours beside me. My first instinct was to call her. My thumb hovered over her name. I wanted to hear her lie in real time. I wanted to say, "I can see you leaving." I wanted the ugly fight she kept accusing me of wanting. Instead, I saved the clip. Then I called my sister the next morning. Tessa was 36, lived in Durham, and had never been fooled by politeness. She was a nurse, which meant she could be loving and blunt within the same sentence. We met at a coffee shop halfway between us after I got back from Charlotte. She listened while I talked, not interrupting, not softening her face in that way people do when they want to calm you down. Just listening. When I finished, she stirred her coffee and said, "You need a lawyer." I looked at her. I don't even know if she's cheating. I didn't say hire a private investigator. I said talk to a lawyer. I still want to save my marriage. Tessa's expression softened then. I know. That's why you need someone who is not emotionally attached to Maren telling you what not to do. I rubbed both hands over my face. I feel crazy. You're not crazy, she said. But she is trying very hard to make you look that way. That sentence did something to me. It did not make me feel better. It made me feel awake. The accidental sync happened 3 days later. Maren was out with Sloan. I was home making a sad dinner of scrambled eggs and toast because I had no energy for anything else. Biscuit sat by the back door, judging me because I was late for his walk. I needed the password for an old recipe app Maren used because I was trying to find the chili recipe she used to make on Panthers game days. It sounds stupid now, but I think I wanted proof that something normal still existed. Her old iPad was in the junk drawer beneath dead batteries, takeout menus, and a cracked phone case. We had bought it years earlier and mostly used it for recipes and streaming music in the kitchen. I plugged it in, waited for it to crawl back to life, and entered the passcode we used back then. It opened. At first, nothing strange happened. The screen loaded slowly. Apps updated. Notifications stacked. Then notes began syncing. Folder after folder appeared. Work. House. Personal. A note under personal caught my eye because it had been modified that day. I know people say curiosity is what gets you in trouble. In my case, it may have saved me. The note was titled Phrases. I opened it. Use, I don't feel emotionally safe, instead of he makes me mad. Say, I feel monitored, even if he says he is just asking. Do not accuse directly. Let people assume. If he texts angry, screenshot immediately. Derek says consistency matters. My skin went cold. I sat at the kitchen island, the same place where I had once put down the restaurant receipt, and read the note 3 times. There were more. A checklist. Receipt in car. Done. Late return. Vague details. Done. Sloan pickup while Nolan away. Done. Mention location tracking at brunch. Done. I stopped breathing normally. This was not an affair unraveling. This was a project. There were voice memos too. I did not listen to all of them. I could not. But I listened to enough. The first was Maren and Sloan, recorded accidentally or saved intentionally. I never found out. Sloan's voice was clear. You need him to react. Calm guys are the hardest because everyone thinks they're reasonable. Maren said, he just shuts down. It's infuriating. Then make the questions more public, Sloan said. If he corrects you in front of people, he looks controlling. If he stays quiet, you look scared. Either way, you win. Maren laughed softly. That sounds awful. It's divorce, not a church picnic. I closed the iPad and pushed it away like it had burned me. For 10 minutes, I did nothing. Biscuit came over and put his head on my knee. I remember touching his ears because I needed something alive and uncomplicated in the room. Then I opened the iPad again. The next folder had screenshots from Derek. Derek was not just a former coworker giving career advice. He called himself a divorce consultant, though from what I could tell, he had no law degree and no license for anything that mattered. He had a small website full of vague language about helping women reclaim leverage during separation. His messages to Maren were careful but arrogant. Do not invent facts that can be disproved. Shape perception around feelings. If Nolan raises his voice, document exact words. If he does not raise his voice, push on finances. You need proof that staying in the house feels uncomfortable. A payment app screenshot showed money sent to him with the note consult. Another message from Sloan said, Derek thinks you can ask for the house if the environment feels unsafe enough. I sat there until the eggs in the pan turned rubbery and the toast went cold. The betrayal was bigger than cheating. In a strange way, cheating would have been simpler. Painful, humiliating, but at least human in a messy, familiar way. This was planned. My wife had been trying to turn my patience into a weakness and my questions into evidence. She had been building a version of me that did not exist, so she could leave with sympathy, leverage, and maybe the house I had spent weekends repairing board by board. I called Tessa again. When she answered, I said, "You were right." She did not say, "I told you so." She said, "Do not confront her tonight. I have proof." Good. Then protect it. The next morning, I called Grant. Grant was a divorce attorney Tessa knew through a friend. His office was in Raleigh, in a brick building with a lobby that smelled faintly like coffee and printer toner. He was 41, calm, blunt, and had the kind of face that suggested he had heard every terrible thing people could do to each other and was no longer impressed. I brought a printed timeline, copies of receipts, screenshots, ring timestamps, and a summary of the synced notes. He read quietly for a while. Then he took off his glasses and said, "First, you are not going to threaten her." I wasn't planning to. "You are also not going to post anything, send a group text, call her employer, contact Derek, or try to embarrass her." I swallowed. "Okay. You are not going to access anything that is not legally available to you. No guessing passwords. No hidden devices. No recording conversations unless you understand the law and the context. Keep this clean." "I understand." He tapped the folder. "What you have may matter, especially because it shows planning. But your behavior from this point forward matters just as much." I looked down at my hands. "What do I do?" "You communicate in writing when possible. You do not fight in private. You offer counseling if you want to show good faith. You preserve financial records. You do not drain accounts. You can move your direct deposit and protect personal emergency funds in a lawful way. But you do not play games. And if she escalates, you let her do it without helping her." That last sentence stayed with me. You let her do it without helping her. So that was what I did. I changed passwords on my personal email, banking login, and work accounts. Not shared accounts. Personal ones. I moved part of my paycheck into a separate account after Grant told me how to do it without creating a financial mess. I copied mortgage statements, tax returns, insurance documents, utility bills, and bank records. When Marin tried to start arguments, I stopped giving her the scene she wanted. One night, she stood in the kitchen while I washed dishes and said, "You've been cold lately." I rinsed a plate. "I'm willing to talk with a counselor." She crossed her arms. "So now I'm the problem?" "I didn't say that. You imply it. I'm saying I think we need help." She stared at me, waiting. I could almost see her searching for the button that used to work. "You don't even care that I'm unhappy," she said. I turned off the water and dried my hands. "I care. I'm also not going to have a shouting match." Her phone buzzed in her hand. She glanced down, typed quickly, then looked back at me. "You sound like a robot." "Maybe." I walked Biscuit after that. Around the cul-de-sac, past the house with the inflatable pumpkin still up 2 weeks after Halloween, past the neighbor who always parked too close to the curb. My chest hurt the whole time. Restraint did not feel powerful. It felt like swallowing broken glass and hoping it did not show on your face. Marin grew frustrated. She started sending texts that sounded less like messages and more like exhibits. "I need space tonight because your behavior has been overwhelming." I replied, "I will respect your space. I am willing to discuss specific concerns with a counselor." She wrote, "You know what you did." I replied, "I am not sure what you mean. I am willing to talk tomorrow at 6 in the kitchen or with a counselor present." No answer. "Another time," she said in person, "you make this house feel tense." I said, "I'm sorry it feels tense. I'm not stopping you from going anywhere or speaking to anyone." She snapped, "That's exactly the kind of thing controlling people say." I looked at Biscuit, who was lying under the table with one paw over his nose. Then I said, "I'm going to take the dog out." I could feel her anger behind me as I left. What I did not know yet was that Marin and Sloan were planning a bigger moment. Sloan's birthday was the first Saturday in November. She held it in her backyard, even though it was too chilly for an outdoor party after sunset. There were folding chairs around a fire pit, paper plates stacked beside trays of barbecue sliders, string lights over the fence, and music playing from a Bluetooth speaker on a patio table. I did not want to go. Grant told me I should not avoid every social situation if Marin might use that too, but he also said, "Do not walk into an ambush if you can help it." I thought I could handle a birthday party. That was optimistic. Marin dressed carefully that evening. Dark jeans, cream sweater, gold earrings. Calm face. Too calm. On the drive over, she barely spoke. She kept checking her phone, turning the screen toward the window. When we arrived, Sloane hugged her too long and looked at me over Marin's shoulder. "Nolan," she said. "Glad you came." Her tone said the opposite. Elaine was there too. She had driven in from Wilmington for the weekend and was staying with one of Marin's cousins. She hugged me, but there was hesitation in it. "Good to see you, Han," she said. "You too." Her eyes searched my face like she expected to find something there. For the first hour, nothing happened. People ate. Someone joked about the HOA's new mailbox policy. A neighbor named Chris talked to me about leaf removal for 10 minutes with the intensity of a man avoiding marital tension in his own life. Then the music lowered. Not off, just lowered enough. I saw Sloane near the speaker with her phone in hand. Marin stood beside the fire pit, holding a plastic cup. Her voice carried clearly. "I wasn't going to say anything tonight," she began. My stomach dropped. A few people turned. Sloane said, "Marin, you don't have to." It sounded supportive. It also sounded rehearsed. Marin looked at me, eyes shiny but not crying. "No, I think I do." I set my plate down on the nearest folding chair. She took a breath. "I know some of you have noticed I've been distant lately, and I just want to be honest. Things at home have been difficult. Nolan has been monitoring me, questioning me, making me feel like I have to explain every move I make." The backyard went still in that awful way public places do when everyone pretends they are not listening, but absolutely is. Elaine covered her mouth lightly. One of Marin's friends whispered, "Oh my God." Marin continued, "I've tried to handle it privately, but it's become emotionally exhausting. I don't feel safe being honest in my own house." There it was, the phrase from the notes. I looked at her, and for 1 second, all I could see was the woman I married. The woman who once cried when Biscuit got sick after eating half a sock. The woman who danced barefoot in our kitchen when we finally got the house. The woman who left sticky notes on my lunch container during our first year of marriage. That woman was gone, or maybe she had been standing behind this one for longer than I wanted to admit. I heard Grant's voice in my head. "Do not humiliate. Do not threaten. Make the truth clear." I took out my phone. Not fast. Not dramatically. "Marin," I said, "do you really want to talk about our marriage in front of everyone?" She lifted her chin. "I'm not afraid of the truth." Sloane crossed her arms. "Let her speak, Nolan." "I am," I said. "I'm asking because once this conversation is public, I'm going to answer publicly." Marin's face flickered. Just a little. Then she said, "Go ahead." I nodded. My hands were not steady, so I held the phone with both of them. "I'm not going to share private details that don't need to be shared," I said. "But I am going to correct something. I have not tracked Marin's location. I have not stopped her from leaving the house. I have not threatened her. What I have done is keep records after I realized I was being accused of things that did not happen." Sloane laughed. "Records? That's normal." I looked at her. "Sloane, your voice is on some of them." The laugh died immediately. Marin said, "What is that supposed to mean?" I opened the note I had saved. "This is from a synced note connected to our shared household device," I said. It says, "Use, I don't feel emotionally safe," instead of "he makes me mad." Say, "I feel monitored," even if he says he is just asking. Do not accuse directly. Let people assume. Nobody moved. Marin's mouth parted. I scrolled. Another checklist says, receipt in car. Late return, vague details. Mention location tracking at brunch. All of those things happened. All of them were later used to make people believe I was controlling. Sloane stepped forward. "That is completely out of context." I looked at her. "Then this may help with context." I played 7 seconds of the voice memo. Not the whole thing. Just enough. Sloane's voice came from my phone, thin but clear. "If he corrects you in front of people, he looks controlling. If he stays quiet, you look scared. Either way, you win." The backyard became silent enough that I heard the fire crackle. Elaine lowered herself slowly into a chair. Marin whispered, "Nolan." I did not look away from her. Then I read one message from Derek. Derek wrote, "You need proof that staying in the house feels uncomfortable." Another message says, "If Nolan raises his voice, document exact words. If he does not, push on finances." Someone behind me said, "Who is Derek?" Marin's face flushed. "You went through my private things." I accessed a household iPad that was still connected to our shared account, I said. And after I saw my name in notes about building a false narrative, I spoke with an attorney. That was when her expression changed completely. Not sadness, not even anger. Fear. Sloan said, "This is insane. He's proving the point. He saved all this like some kind of case file." I turned to the group, not raising my voice. I saved evidence because I was being accused of behavior that could affect my home, my reputation, and my future. I'm not asking anyone here to choose sides tonight. But I will not stand here and let a planned story replace what actually happened. Marin's cup trembled in her hand. Elaine looked at her daughter. "Marin, is this real?" Marin's eyes filled then, but the tears came too late to change the room. "It's not what it sounds like," she said. Sloan grabbed her arm. "Don't answer that." That answered more than anything. I put my phone away. "I'm leaving," I said. "Any further conversation can happen through attorneys or with a counselor present, if that is still appropriate." Marin followed me to the gate. "Nolan, wait." I stopped, but did not turn around. "You embarrassed me in front of everyone," she said. That almost broke something in me. I turned then. "You gathered everyone to accuse me in front of them." I was trying to tell my truth. "No," I said. "You were trying to make your plan look like my behavior." Her face twisted. "You don't understand how unhappy I've been." "You're right," I said. I did not understand. But unhappiness was not permission to lie. I left without shouting. I drove home with both hands on the wheel while my phone buzzed over and over in the cup holder. Marin calling. Sloan calling. Marin texting. "You had no right." Then, "Please answer." Then, "We need to talk before you do something crazy." I almost laughed at that one, but nothing about it was funny. Biscuit was waiting at the door when I got home, tail thumping, stuffed duck in his mouth. I sat on the floor beside him and cried in the dark entryway like a man who had been holding his breath for months. The next few weeks were not satisfying in the way people imagine these stories should be. There was no dramatic courtroom scene. No judge slamming a gavel while Marin confessed. No instant justice wrapped in a neat bow. There were attorney emails, bank statements, hard conversations about the mortgage, lists of furniture, arguments about Biscuit that ended quickly when Marin admitted he was more attached to me and that her new apartment would not have a yard. Marin moved into a short-term rental in Raleigh. Sloan helped her at first, then seemed to disappear when the situation became less empowering and more legally inconvenient. Derek vanished almost immediately. His website went private for a while. Marin claimed he had only been giving general advice, but the payment records and messages made that difficult to sell. Grant did not treat him like a criminal mastermind. He treated him like a reckless man who had encouraged bad decisions and did not want his name appearing in formal correspondence. That was enough. The divorce negotiations became grounded instead of theatrical. Marin did not get the one-sided outcome she had been aiming for. She did not get to keep the house by painting me as someone she needed to escape. We divided things fairly. Painfully, but fairly. The house went on the market in January. I thought I would feel relieved watching the sign go up in the yard. Instead, I felt hollow. That house had not just been a financial asset. It had been Saturday pancakes, paint samples taped to walls, Biscuit running circles in the backyard, Marin planting herbs she always forgot to water, me assembling patio furniture while she read instructions out loud and laughed when I pretended not to need them. Bad endings do not erase good memories. They just make them harder to hold. Social fallout came slowly. A few friends apologized. Most did it awkwardly. Chris from the neighborhood caught me at Harris Teeter near the produce section and said, "Hey man, I'm sorry about all that." All that was apparently the easiest phrase. "I appreciate it," I said. He nodded, looked at the apples, then said, "For what it's worth, I should have asked you before assuming." I didn't know what to say, so I just said, "Thanks." Some people never apologized. They simply stopped liking Marin's posts for a while, then drifted away from both of us because divorce makes people afraid they will be asked to have a spine. Elaine sent me a message 2 weeks after the party. "Nolan, I owe you an apology. I believe my daughter because she is my daughter, but I should not have accepted every word without question. I am deeply sorry for the way I treated you. I hope one day you can forgive that." I stared at the message for a long time before replying. "Thank you for saying that. I know this is painful for you too." She asked if she could say goodbye to Biscuit before the house sold. I said yes. She came by on a cold Sunday afternoon with a small bag of treats and red eyes. Biscuit lost his mind when he saw her, spinning in circles like nothing bad had happened. Elaine knelt down and hugged him. "I'm sorry, sweet boy," she whispered into his fur. Then she looked at me. I don't know who she's been listening to. I did not say Sloan. I did not say Derek. I did not say Marin was old enough to know better. I just said, I think she was unhappy and chose the wrong way to leave. Elaine wiped her face. "That's generous." "No," I said. "It's just all I have left." The house sold in March. I moved into a smaller townhouse closer to Raleigh, near a greenway where Biscuit and I could walk in the mornings. It had less space, fewer memories, and a kitchen with ugly cabinet handles I replaced the first weekend, because apparently I am still the kind of man who fixes small things when life feels too large. The first night there, I ate takeout noodles from a cardboard container while sitting on the floor because my table had not arrived yet. Biscuit slept beside a stack of boxes labeled office, though half of them were actually garage stuff I had packed in a hurry. The silence felt strange. Not lonely exactly. Unclaimed. For months, silence in my house had meant Marin was angry, hiding something, waiting for me to ask the wrong question. In the townhouse, silence was just silence. The refrigerator hummed. A car passed outside. Biscuit snored. No one was turning my words into weapons in another room. After the settlement was final, Grant told me I could stop carrying everything on my phone. "Keep legal copies with my office," he said. "You don't need to live inside the evidence anymore." That evening, I sat at my small kitchen table with my laptop open and went through the folder. Restaurant receipt. Ring clip. Screenshots. Notes. Messages. For a while, each file had felt like a life raft. Proof that I was not imagining things. Proof that I was not the man Marin needed me to be for her plan to work. But proof is heavy when you keep holding on to it after the danger has passed. I deleted my extra copies and kept only what Grant had told me to keep stored through his office. Then I closed the laptop. Biscuit came over and dropped his stuffed duck on my foot. I took him outside. The air smelled like cut grass and rain. Somewhere down the row of townhouses, someone was grilling dinner. A kid rode a scooter along the sidewalk, and Biscuit watched like it was the most fascinating thing he had ever seen. I did not feel victorious. I had lost my marriage. I had lost the house we bought when we still believed we were building something permanent. I had lost friends who liked the easier version of the story better. But I had not lost myself. Marin wanted a jealous husband who would yell, threaten, follow, accuse, and prove every warning she had planted in people's minds. I gave her none of that. I gave her room to tell the story she had written, and then I let her own words show everyone the draft. That was the only revenge I could live with. Not ruining her. Not chasing Derek. Not punishing Sloan. Not trying to make the whole world believe me. Just refusing to become the villain they needed. These days, my life is smaller, but it is honest. I wake up early, walk Biscuit before work, drink coffee from a mug Tessa bought me that says, "Operationally fine," and answer HOA emails only when absolutely necessary. Some nights still hurt. I won't pretend they don't. But when I turn off the lights now, I do not wonder what version of me is being created behind my back. I lock the door, Biscuit settles beside the bed, and the quiet finally feels safe. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.